check. Is this thing on? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you are tuning in. Welcome back to this episode of Not Your Grandma's Advice. It has been quite some time since we have been face to face with each other. And honestly, that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. We have, I wouldn't say a doozy ahead of us, but we definitely have some things we need to unpack. And this is going to be a very vulnerable episode. So if at any point what I say hits a little too close to home, take some time, take a break, take a pause, breathe, reflect, and then come back because we still have work to do. So for those of you that tune in and those of you that don't, you may realize that there's a bit of a gap between this episode and our last episode, right? And I'll be real, life was lifing. How many of us use that as an excuse when we fall behind or we lack in the things that we said we were going to do? I know I hear that phrase, life be lifing, or life was lifing, so often. But when have we ever known life to not life? You know, when have we ever known life to be easy and simple and mistake-free? Never, right? So is that really an excuse that we can use? Is that really an excuse that I can use? That's what I've been spending these last few months doing, is really focusing on the goals that I have in mind for myself and in mind for my future family and my current family, and how my actions line up to the things that I say I want to do, the things I say I want to accomplish. And I will tell y'all, they were not lining up at all, okay? I was nowhere near on the correct path I should be on, or should have been on, because I'm finding my way now. But I was not on the correct path I should have been on for all the things I say I want to accomplish. So that brings me to today's episode. Respecting your own authority. I know, it's hard. I know before we talked about not living your life on autopilot, and we talked about unlearning your toxic behaviors, and we talked about so many different things, you know, in your villain era, setting boundaries, so many things. But what about those boundaries with yourself? That is something that I have had quite a hard time coming to terms with, honestly. And this is where we'll get a little bit vulnerable. I want to share a little bit of my backstory with you guys so you understand why I feel so compelled to make this podcast and why I felt so compelled to need to come back to it. I would call it a hiatus, but I knew that I was going to come back to this podcast because it's just something on my heart. So a little bit about me is I was not always the amazing, charming woman you see before you today. In fact, I used to be very insecure and shy, and I did not stand up for myself. I did not stand up for others. I didn't speak up. I was bullied quite a bit, actually, in my younger days. I know, who would want to bully an adorable cutie like this? I don't know, but c'est la vie. So during that time, because my sense of worth and my sense of being really came from what others assigned to me, I never really learned how to assign it to myself. Going through what I went through when I was younger, which we're not going to get too into, but just know that I've been through some things, and I started equating my self-worth with whatever people told me I was worth. And if you're surrounded by people who are constantly not accepting you fully for who you are and the things that you believe and the things that you feel, if you're constantly around people who are talking down on you, who see that you have nothing to contribute, you start to believe those things yourself, right? And obviously, I put in the work. I went to therapy to get out of that depression and that really bad self-worth that I was assigning to myself, right? However, the work is never done. And we say that often, and I say that at the end of our episodes, that there's still work to do. There was still work to do, right? My therapy sessions got cut short because life was life, and right? And at the time, using that as an excuse seemed perfectly acceptable, right? Until this year. And I realized that your mid-20s are such a serious age. You can't skate free anymore. You can't pretend. You can't dream these big dreams and keep showing up with nothing. Nothing that's proof of all the things you say you're doing or want to do, right? So while my therapy sessions were cut short, I felt that because I no longer had suicidal ideation and because I no longer was fixated on what other people thought of me, that I was cured, that I was healed, until it came time to start mapping out my life. There was a point in my life where I did not think that I was even going to make it to be the age of 16, right? I had made up majors and made up careers that I always told people I wanted to do, when in reality, I had no plans on making it to adulthood. But here I am, and I'm living and I'm flourishing, and I figured, well, if I'm going to be here, I might as well make something out of it, right? So I started really thinking about the things that I want, the things that I desire, and not just something to tell someone so that they feel like my life is on track, or telling people what they want to hear, or saying things that make me sound successful or make me sound good, right? I started really thinking about the things that brought me joy, and that is wellness. As much as I thought that therapy and meditation and counseling were all just coping mechanisms so that I didn't want to off myself all the time, right? No. The methods that I learned and the way that I have seen them transform not only my life but others' lives, that is where my happiness lies, right? Now that I realized that I wanted to move into wellness, I had to think about what I could do to get there, right? And I mapped out everything. If you guys could see my Google Sheets, you would see checklist upon checklist upon checklist, right? I kid you not. I have a document that has my monthly goals for the next year and a half. I mean, I have a goal set for every single month, and several goals at that. I have several goals set for every single month in order to start living the life I want to live, right? So I have goals for July, August, September, October, and it is something as small as finish paying my tuition. Well, that's not really small, but something as big as, it ranges from something as big as paying my tuition to getting a car wash. That's how much I've planned these next years, right? These next months. And I looked over that list and I add things to it and I move things and I take things away. But you know what I wasn't doing every time I opened that document? Checking things off. I had this big plan and I had this huge epiphany that now that I wanted to live, I was going to make my life worth living. And I wasn't checking things off. And because of that, I started getting really discouraged. I started getting in a bad place again, thinking that my brain was still broken, that all that thinking I did was going to go to waste because I didn't have the action. to back it up, right? And something clicked. I'll be honest, there were a few months where I was one of those people using ChatGPT as a therapist. But of course, doing my research and learning how horrible that is, not only for my intellectualism, but for the environment, I realized I had to start working things out myself. And in that time, I realized that I've made all these plans because I'm so scared to fail, that I wanted everything to be perfect. And I know I'm talking to our perfectionists out there right now. There is no such thing as perfect, right? There's always something a little off, something missing, something that could be better. There is no such thing as perfect. And I had to realize that and then learn to be okay with that, right? And while I'm still working on learning that not everything has to be perfect, I also realized that in all my planning to make sure everything was perfect, I was scared of failing. So I wanted to control as much as possible so that when I actually took action towards whatever goal it was, there was no way I could fail because I had planned everything. And I realized, going back to our very first episode, and I was saying that I had always been nervous to start my podcast because of what other people might say. Well, I was not practicing what I preach because I realized I was still embarrassed. I was embarrassed that all these goals and hopes and dreams that I had, if I actually tried and failed, what would that make me? As opposed to if I never tried at all and I couldn't fail because I'd never tried, I couldn't blame anybody but myself, and I couldn't even blame myself because I didn't even try. I couldn't blame anybody for my life not turning out the way that I would desire, right? And I would have years that I thought, oh, I wish I did this, or I wish I did that, or I should have done this, or why didn't I do that, or I wish I could go back. But you can't. There is no rewind. There is no pause. There is no recap. There is no replay. You get one chance. And that thought was scary. It caused me to shut down for a bit. For a few months, as you guys see. The thought that I had two options. Option A was I could continue to sit on my ass and plan and plan and plan and never take action, and then 50 years from now be living in a complacent life doing something that paid the bills but didn't bring me joy. Or option B, and I could use those plans that I've been making, and I can start taking action towards a life that would bring me joy with temporary embarrassment, but it would be so much more rewarding. Obviously, I chose B. I chose to not care about being embarrassed for this time being, because I know how it works. I know how our society works, right? When someone gets a plan, they talk about it and people are like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then they start taking action towards it and they're like, oh, what are you doing? That's kind of crazy, right? And then they keep at it and they're failing, and they keep at it and they're failing, and everybody's like, you should just give up, or what are they doing? They're wasting their time. And then they get successful. And then all of a sudden it's, oh, I knew them when. Or I remember when we used to talk about this. Or I can't believe that they actually did this. Or how lucky. Luck? Luck had nothing to do with it. It's hard work. It's getting off your ass, and it's making those things work for you. It's making things align for you. And that starts with respecting your own authority. Hear me out. I told you guys a little bit about my backstory, and I told you guys how I took whatever worth was assigned to me and didn't assign any to myself. That was why I was having such a hard time taking action towards these plans. I would set boundaries with myself. I would set goals for myself. I would set deadlines for myself, and I would miss them almost every single time. But you know what I didn't miss? Homework deadlines, deadlines for work, assignments that I had to get done, responsibilities I had for other people, my organizations. I didn't miss those. Why? Because they held authority in my life, right? I didn't miss those because those were responsibilities that I signed up for. You know what else I signed up for? My life. These dreams that I keep saying that I have, these goals I keep saying that I have, I signed up for that. I could be sitting down on the couch, watching TV all day, bed rotting, reading to my heart's content, right? I could be doing that all day. And sure, I'd be content. I'd have a relatively happy life. You know, I have a partner who adores me. I have friends that love me. I have a family that loves me. I could have a relatively happy life living like that. But I know that I desire more. I know that. I've known who I was from a young age. And my family can attest to this. They've known who I am from a young age. I'm not complacent. I'm not content. I'm not happy with bare minimum. Never have been. And I probably never will be. Right? I never finished my own goals. And I never checked things off of that to-do list because I didn't treat myself like a priority. I didn't consider myself a responsibility because after all those years of people assigning self-worth to me, yeah, I put in the work with my therapist to get out of that negative hold it had on me and to stop caring so much what other people think, right? And to stop taking their self-worth and putting it on me. Sure, I stopped doing that. The issue is that because it got cut short, I never finished putting in the work to start assigning self-worth to myself. I stopped taking what other people thought of me to heart, but I didn't replace it with anything, right? I was still just there, just going through the motions, never really thinking deeply about how I felt about something or how I felt about myself. And it was one of those last conversations I had with ChatGPT months ago where I was trying to figure out why I had such an inability to take action and why hadn't I respected myself the way I respect others and my other responsibilities. And I realized that it's because I didn't know how I felt about myself. Was I an authority figure? Was I someone that I cared about? Was I someone that I loved? If you're having a hard time taking action, maybe dive a little deeper into how you feel about yourself and not just surface level. You know, think about your body. I know I don't speak for everyone, but I feel like I speak to most when I say there are a lot of people who aren't happy with their body. Are you working out because you love your body and you're thankful for it taking care of you all these years and you want to give it its best chance possible to take care of you for years to come? Are you working out because you like being healthy, because you like being strong? Are you working out because you don't like what you see? It's all a matter of changing the way you speak to yourself and the way you think about yourself. Instead of working out or saying, oh, I have to work out because I'm so fat. Like, oh, I have to work out because I'm a big back. Like, all of those things, you could say instead, I get to work out because my body allows me to. There are people who are stuck, you know? Their body is their body, and there's not much that they can physically do about it without the help of surgery. You get to work out because you are able-bodied to do so. You should work out because being healthy means that you get to experience more life. It's not a I have to, because it's a I get to. I should, because that's what's good for me, right? The whole self-love thing, is it I think I'm cute, I think I'm funny, I think I'm smart? Or is it I think I'm a good person? I think I am respectful of others' boundaries. I think I am a safe space. Or is it surface level? Think deep about how you feel about yourself, because the surface is not enough. How you feel on the outside, how you feel about how you're perceived, that doesn't matter. It's not going to take you anywhere. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get you to your goals. It doesn't matter. What matters is how you feel about the things no one can see. How do you feel about the things no one can hear because they're in your head? How do you feel about the way you think? How do you feel about the way you behave? How do you feel about those things? Think deeply, because that's what I had to do to realize that I was not considering myself in any aspect of my life. I was doing things because they were convenient. I was doing things because that's what other people desired of me. I was doing things because that's what society expected of me. I was not doing things because I wanted them. Deep inside my bones, I desired them. I was not doing things because I cared about them, right? Now I am. I'm doing the things that I want. And while a lot of those things still align, like being a mentor, that's something I love deep inside of me. Being able to not only connect with young women, but to help bring them up and make them feel like they have someone that they can turn to. That is something I still very much so care about. Does it look good in society's eyes? Yeah, of course. But is it something that I care about deep down inside? Absolutely. So I'm not saying that you need a complete and total personality makeover or a life makeover. I'm just saying that if you're like me and you've noticed that you're making checklist after checklist after checklist and you're not checking anything off, maybe you don't respect yourself. And that's more than how they say, oh, respect yourself and cover up, or respect yourself and don't text him back. Like, it's more than that. Respect yourself and do the things you said you were going to do for yourself, right? That's not doing things for your job. That's not doing things for your homegirls. It's doing things for yourself because you said you were going to, right? So first, here's what we're going to do. I want everyone, after this episode ends, to sit and think deeply about the things you care about, the responsibilities you have, and then figure out where you place yourself on that totem. Okay? If you're not at the top, think a little deeper. Why are you putting anything above you? And that goes for parents as well. As someone that's not a parent yet, I can't speak to it. But I know that at the end of the day, you matter the most. I know parents say like they'll put nothing over their child. Sometimes you should put yourself over your child. I know partners, People who are in relationships, oh, you're not going to put yourself over your partner. Sometimes you should. This is your life at the end of the day, and you only get one. And there is no reward for I put more things over myself than anybody else. There's no reward for that. You don't get a gold medal when you die that says, I never put myself first. Okay? So it's time to change. Reflect. Think about where you place yourself within all of your responsibilities. If it's not at the top, reflect a little deeper. Why not? What could possibly be more important than your quality of life? Nothing. That's the secret. Nothing is. And then put in the work. Everybody is a little different. So while you may recognize that we have a similarity in the fact that we make these lists and we don't check them off, it could be that you don't respect your own authority. It could be that you're procrastinating. It could be that you're also like me and you're scared to fail, or you're scared to have other people see you fail. It could be anything. I'm not saying that everyone has the same childhood trauma I do, and that's why you don't have any self-worth. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're not where you want to be in life or on track to be there, dig a little deeper and figure out why. Because I guarantee you, it can't just be your environment. Stop using the excuse life be life in. We're done with it. It's retired. Okay? Dare I say it's canceled. Life is always gonna life. So when we're done, take a beat. Reflect. If you want to go ahead and start pulling out some pen and paper now, or getting into a comfy spot, reflect, think, dig deep, and then start putting in the work that aligns to you. And I cannot wait to see us back here next week as we talk about what we're going to do with this newfound authority. In the meantime, put in the work. I adore you. I'm proud of you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.